What's up, everyone? How's it going? Welcome to today's market analysis session. Today is April the 15th, and today we were not able to take any trades as today was PPI day, and we do not trade during very high impact news like CPI, PPI, NFP, FOMC, and all those types of things. It's always better to be safe than sorry, especially when trading. So let's analyze the market and see if there were any potential setups that we could have potentially grabbed on. That's a sounded book map. But let's see if there was anything that we could capture here today. And I'm actually not gonna chart out. Actually, you know what? Let's chart it out and let's chart out NQ and ES and see what we can find out. So let's mark out market open here at 8:30 and let's go see what happened during PPI at 7:30. So at 7:30 we had this big upwards candle, so I'm marking out the liquidity at the lower point, and I'm also going to mark out this high right here prior to the market open. Now hop on the 4-hour. We see that we have another high right here that is waiting to be taken as liquidity. We have this low here, which did get sweeping out. We have main liquidity down there as well. Now let's go on to the 1-hour. Want to see what's there as well, if there's anything prior, and then we'll go to the 1-hour. So we do see a nice 4-hour supply zone. And that means that we have liquidity up at these highs and also up at these highs right here. And now let's go on to the 1-hour. So on the 1-hour time frame, we see that we do have additional liquidity here. And let's go back here as well. And nothing there. So that's pretty much the main levels on ES. I mean, on NQ. What it looks like from the 1-hour, if you just cut off what happened during market session, honestly, it's not too predictable as to what price will do. It looks like price is still trying to find direction. It's trying to see if you want to continue within this range or potentially break out towards the upside or continue going downwards. And to get that understanding of what might actually happen, let's go ahead and take advantage of the volume profile. Let's mark it to the slows right here. So what we see happening is that we are generating volume here at where we're sitting. So just because POC is down here, that doesn't mean I'm automatically thinking that we're going to revert back to the mean, because we are creating a good amount of volume where we're sitting at right now. So if we do break this volume, and which lines up with all these levels, if we break that liquidity, we can head down from that liquidity and head towards this volume right here. So you have this whole area of imbalance below area for you to target. So this you could potentially also label as imbalance below. So just keep that in mind. That's simply from the lows. Now let's extend it all the way to these highs right here. What we see is that volume is generating here, but now if we break above towards the upside, we can likely continue all the way up till here. And we do have many levels preventing us from doing that. But in the overall higher time frame, buys should typically and will typically result in more upwards moving days compared to downwards moving days if we break through this supply zone with a decent amount of strength. So what I'm looking for prior to market open or during market open is honestly to see where we are going to break out and if we can find a retracement off of that, right? If we break these lower liquidity levels, I want to see how we react to those levels. And if we break it with strength, potentially grab a retracement and carry the move on until the next bookmap liquidity. Or if we break an upper liquidity level, we want to see the reaction at that level. And if we break through its strength, then potentially we want to grab a retracement targeting liquidity or bookmap liquidity that is high. That's what I'm seeing on NQ. Now on ES, on the other hand, let's see what's up on ES. Let's go ahead and mark out market open. Keep in mind that where I'm at is Central Time. And right at 7:30 here on ES, made a similar type of candle, but we have liquidity there. Main liquidity, I mean. Oh, shoot. We have main liquidity there, and also main liquidity there, simply because this is PPI. Now let's go on to categorize our main levels. So we do have this low right here that you might want to see reaction off of. We have this high right here and also this high right here. Let's go ahead and see what was there prior as well. That is not a supply zone like it was on NQ, but we do have this nice main liquidity level and one up there, but it's highly unlikely we get all the way up there. Okay, so now let's go on to the 1 hour and see if there's anything there. I will be marking that out right here and also that, because you don't know how much the market may move in one given day. Now let's go on to the lower time frame and see if there's any additional levels there. So we did happen to have quite a few, and we had quite a few supply zones as well. So we have this supply zone. I'm actually going to extend it to there because that was where the OG move was originating. So I want to keep it tight, but still relating to the overall discrepancy of that move. So I will be marking this as a 1 hour supply zone. And of course, there's going to be liquidity there. Liquidity there. 1 hour liquidity there. 1 hour liquidity there. And also 1 hour liquidity there. Realistically, you could consider this also as a supply zone, but I don't really want to do that simply because there's a much higher impact supply zone, and what it looks like is that this candle actually wicked up into this supply zone, which resulted in the move down. So maybe we want to actually move this down to the lower wick of that candle. You just have to estimate here. I'm not trying to redraw it. Alright, looks like we're gonna redraw it. 1 hour. And we can extend this down there. Pretty big zone. And we pushed through this in market open, but we can see further reaction. Now let's see if there's any 1 hour over here. And it does look like we had a 1 over here. So I will be marking that out as well. But that's essentially it for what's there on ES before the volume profile. We see that price is still trying to find its direction. In a longer span of things, we're moving up, making a retracement to the downside. Potentially we see a reversal from this point, but that's hindsight because we already saw what happened there. But we are going to be around the V2 level. Yeah, literally exactly within the V2 levels is where we're at prior to market open. So we need to keep that in mind as well. We need to wait and see for a reaction at this level as well. So let's go on the 4 hour and mark out our volume profiles to gain more insight and see if it matches along with the NQ. So yeah, just like NQ, we're creating lots of volume here. If we break through these lower liquidity levels right here, and then we can grab an imbalance below down to this gap fill area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this as imbalance below. And let's go ahead and extend the volume profile. Does look like where we are sitting at does have quite a decent amount of volume. If we break through this level, we can find imbalance above likely to that level. So I will be marking this as imbalance above. And there we have that. So honestly, same thing as NQ, just waiting for reaction to see what will happen within the market. Let's go ahead and see what happened actually after market open and see if there's anything that we could have taken and analyze some key pivot points using footprint and bookmap as well. So let's get straight into that. Alright, so looking right at market open, it looks like market open ended up pushing price upwards. Let's go see how that reacted here on bookmap as well. So it looks like bookmap came right upwards into this liquidity level, which did seem to match and align with the liquidity that we had here at these highs. So potential short could have been taken from that touch into this liquidity and sweep of those highs right there, right upon market open. But right at market open, not really much to say there. You cannot trade that quickly. I'm expecting absorption there on bookmap as well, pretty clearly. I mean, we see lots of buying delta here that could not get broken through, and we see most of the volume being at the top of this candle. Now, moving forward, it looks like we did come down from that level, and we utilized the fair value gap of this PPI. Yeah, PPI. We utilized the fair value gap of the PPI candle and the V2 levels as essentially a great retracement position for price to potentially continue to head back to those highs. But let's see what happened here at... Oh, shoot. Hold on. That was a long time retracement before. This was a thing. And now it looks like we came all the way down to the same level that we had previously retraced. I want to see what happened here around this level that might have reversed the market back up, taking a higher high. So that was around 845. So maybe at 5080 it was. No, it's not. Okay, it looks like price came down here. We saw introduction of icebergs and buy stops that got filled. Maybe there's more on bookmap. Not really seeing too much on the bookmap. Let's see if you see anything on the footprint chart. Here at 845. Okay, this is a bit more clear. What we're seeing is that majority of the volume has been transacted at the low of this candle, right? And on top of that, we see that there is lots of selling delta within this area, and we actively see large amount of buyers trying to get in at this level as demonstrated by buyer delta. So we see buyers trying to come in and sellers defending this area. But the sellers are not getting rewarded because the buyers are defending this area and are trying to push price upwards. And we see a small barrier here indicating that passive buyers might be at the area, potentially a long could have been taken there, but not too much confirmation on that as well. That was at 8:45. Now we came all the way back up, came to these highs right here. Now at these highs, we broke through all this entire supply zone and went straight to this liquidity level above, which we did happen to see rejection off of, right? So let's see what happened there right at 9 a.m., which is where this is at right now. And what I'm noticing already is that we're coming back to this key liquidity level here on Bookmap, which was created from the previous highs. And we're seeing lots of buys step in here at this level. Ooh, that is kind of confusing. When was the lows from that? 9:10. Huh. Yeah, so honestly, I don't see much here. What I do see is that price breaks through this initial level and we head up to this level, which does seem to be more significant because it's longer and more thin. And we come up to this level, buyers struggle to break through, instant rejection from that level with 469 iceberg orders. That seems to be pretty good confirmation. Let's see here on Bookmap if there's anything up near these highs. I'm looking for lots of buyer delta to indicate absorption. And wow, would you look at that? Right at the highs in both the Bookmap liquidity area of both of these. If you look on footprint, we notice that we see lots of volume here around this 5900 all the way to 5902 area. And that aligns pretty nicely with this level right here. So we see a good amount of absorption there. Then we continue to push up higher. And we start to see absorption around that area as well. But it seems that sellers have gotten exhausted. Sellers have gotten absorbed here itself. Buyers have gotten absorbed here as well. And we had to push a bit higher for the sellers, the buyers. And then our active sellers stepped in, and this level held very nicely as compared to the other level. Simply from seeing absorption at this level, we likely could have entered once we saw the indication of that iceberg orders on ES. And combining that with the fact that liquidity had gotten swept as well, honestly could have prepared for a nice trade where you get a pretty decent entry near these highs right here because you notice that absorption. Put your stop around 20 ticks above those highs. And where do you target? You target lower Bookmap liquidity, which seems to be building around that 5880 level. But as always, you're waiting for signs of invalidation. So let's see what happens. Alright, you likely would have had to exit around here, and you might be wondering why. You see large amounts of sellers step into the market near this barrier. Did the sellers break through? No. Passive buyers are holding this area, and because passive buyers are holding this area and icebergs are starting to come in and buy stops, those are signs of reversal, and I would consider that enough invalidation. So 5894. That provides for a nice 1 to 1.5 risk to reward trade, which is not bad at all. That's pretty good risk to reward in terms of liquidity. Not bad at all. But let's see. Honestly, there's nothing from those lows except for that barrier. I want to see more confluence when it comes to a liquidity level or V2 as well. But overall, it looks like the day was pretty choppy. And we had PPI. So good thing we did not trade. Now, we made a retracement back up And let's see where we start to make the sell move from there. What time was that? That was at 9:20. Yeah, honestly, I'm not seeing anything there that is clear enough to market entry. Let's look on the footprint chart. Yeah, we don't see much on Bookmap, right? We don't see much on Bookmap at all. But we see that large amounts of buyers are stepping in at this area and are unable to break this high, which was previously a clear sign of passive selling. Now, if you look on Bookmap, take a look at what's happening at those highs right there. We are seeing large amounts of buying delta come in near these highs that is unable to even break through that area of high volume that we previously had here and these highs right here. That indication with introduction of the selling icebergs that we saw could have paired for a good confirmation for short trade around the time in which we saw these icebergs come in. So see where those icebergs started to come in. Okay, we started to see those icebergs come in, started seeing absorption, and we started seeing a light barrier pop up. So I want to just see. The barrier is honestly not too significant. It's just simply here on Bookmap. But you likely could have entered after seeing some sort of rejection from the area again. It's around 5896 potentially. Around there. And your stop loss could have been above the highs. Same thing around 20 ES ticks. Where could you have targeted? You likely could have targeted wherever we seek invalidation. So let's go ahead and see where we see that. Alright, here I'm low-key expecting a potential reversal to happen because we're seeing large amounts of buy icebergs pop in, and even with a heavy amount of sellers coming in around this area, prices unable to break through this relative area, showing signs of absorption, and that means we potentially might reverse here. Let's go ahead and see Bookmap around that 10:35-ish candle or 9:35-ish candle. And yeah, honestly, would you look at that? Right at these lows right here, what do we see? We see large amounts of seller delta start to come in with lots of volume here at the bottom of these candles. That aligns really perfectly with the action and bubble spread that we're seeing here on Bookmap. With the introduction of buying icebergs, the clear signs of absorption with these bubbles, and the validity of absorption through this buying delta and volume here at the bottom, you likely could have got an exit probably around this area around 5891. So let's go ahead and see where that would provide us. That would again provide us a nice 1-to-1 trade. So 2 trades, a 1.5 risk reward and a 1.1 risk reward. And you likely could have targeted more profits and got better entry, but we're doing this on the safe side of things. Now let's go ahead and see what happened here down here as well. What we started was seeing this absorption happen. So this potentially could have been an area that we could have seeking a reversal as well because we swept upper liquidity. Let's go on the 1 hour. I actually want to see what is happening there. And wait, I want to mark out a vertical line that tells us before this retracement. I want to see if there's any 1 hour liquidity there. Not really, not seeing any 1 hour liquidity really, but what I am seeing is that we do have a decent V2 spread that we can put in Fibonacci there. I want to take out the OG one and see what this gets us. So honestly, market structure does not align with the long, but what we're seeing on Orderflow does. If there was market proper market structure without all this choppy action that we have saw, then potentially the long through would have been a great idea, simply because we're seeing clear signs of absorption on footprint and on bookmap. But since there's no evident market structure within the charts itself, other than potentially a VWAP, and the fact that we retraced from VWAP a few times previously within the same day, then potentially you could have gauged the longs. But honestly, it's very unlikely. But say you did gauge the longs, entered around 5889, or let's say 5889. So let's say 5890. And that's honestly a very, very, very good entry. We place our stop below this, put 5 ticks out. It should be 17. Then we could probably target these highs right here. But let's go ahead and see what happened on bookmap. Alright, so potentially an exit there, but honestly that was a quick flash. Let's see if there's anything there that signified absorption. Now, if you look at this candle, right, where we saw that retracement happen, buyer delta was spread throughout the candle. I'm not seeing too clear signs of absorption other than I'm not really seeing any clear signs of absorption other than the fact that we did have lots of liquidity here. The majority of our volume was traded at the bottom of this candle, not at the top, so that is something to be aware of. Likely this trade would have been held because there was no clear sign of invalidation, which means that we could have continued holding. So let's continue holding and see if there's any sign of invalidation. Now here we want to be very careful. We're seeing large amounts of buy orders come in and icebergs there as well. But we do have a supporting barrier quite close by, so I'm waiting to see if this supporting barrier breaks. And it looks like our supporting barrier holds and we go straight through it. And now our barriers are just taking us up and up and up. Now we're at another level. Our supporting barriers are continuing to hold. Now here would have been where we exit. Why, you may ask? We saw buyer absorption, potential buyer absorption here at these highs. And we see that we're breaking through our supporting barriers. So 5915 would have been a decent exit area with what we are looking for. 5915, which would be a banger of a trade. 100 ticks exactly on ES, which is honestly very, very good. That's a 1 to almost 1 to 6 risk to reward. If we kept this at the lows, that would be a 1 to 7 or even 1 to 8 risk to reward, which is absolutely great. But this trade could have been made today, and that would likely be the best trade that could have been made. And if you look at it, it's at that same 930 to 940 period that these type of trades always seem to show up in. So keep that in mind like always. Why could an entry be taken there? We saw absorption on footprint, as demonstrated with the seller delta here with high volume near the bottom of the bars. And we also saw high seller absorption evidence on bookmap, because although we're breaking through, large amounts of sellers are coming in as demonstrated by these bubbles, but are unable to break through with a good amount of strength. Now here, sellers are not coming in as we wanted, and buying icebergs are coming in and buying stops are coming in. We saw this coming in, took it as a sign of invalidation. We have this supporting barrier. Supporting barrier had been broken around 5892, which would have provided enough confirmation to enter in that trade. 5890 was an entry. Let's say 5892 was an entry if you waited for more confirmation. That would have still provided for over 92 ticks, around 92 ticks here on ES. So that is honestly the power of order flow trading. Without order flow trading, you may have gotten flushed out and potentially may not have known where to keep your stop loss and more. But definitely good signs there without any invalidation until the point of exit around this area right here. That's honestly all I have here for today. We honestly highlighted the power that Footprint and Bookmap in unison have in identifying absorption for different trades and moves on the day, like this big move that we had today at around 9:35 to 9:50 or even 10:30 a.m. Central Time. And we were potentially able to catch that. But I would, like I said before, like to see more market structure here prior. And I would like to see better structure before as well, because I don't like this previous choppy action that we've had. But the VWAP top is a plus, and this is also a plus as well. If we simply took a long and exited where we saw invalidation, potentially first TP would have been there, second TP would have been there, which would have still provided us almost 1.5 risk to reward. So you just have to play with the cards that you're dealt. Two decent trades, one with the risk reward of around 1 to 1.5 were presented itself here, and one great trade presented itself there, all with the power of Footprint and Bookmap. So that's honestly pretty much all I have here for today. We discussed good trade setups that could have been made today. We discussed that PPI was today, so we were idle in the market today and did not take any trades live. But we did happen to see what trades that could have been taken if we were live and if we did trade despite the fact that it was PPI. Who knows, potentially we might trade PPI in the future if we see what we want. But that's all I have here for today. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below, or go ahead and join the Discord. The link is in the description. There are many free resources that traders can use to get started and accelerated within their trading career for completely free. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next trade recap or market analysis session. I guess I'll see you guys then. Goodbye.